Oh my god, dude! Even the document is saying, yeah, you're wrong. You should be using true or false for your Boolean values. He's so mad and pressed and seething about this that he's spurging out in a chain of YouTube comments responding to random people. And then he's also going and voting down on comments here too. Oh, is that? Bro, imagine that. This is the problem he's really wriggled himself into. Is so much of his credibility relies on his experience when it's turning out his experience is massively overstated and embellished. See, the thing this guy doesn't understand is that Thor knows more than the game maker devs. Oh, I see. He's outclassed them too.
I don't want to say out of his mind, but
out of his depth.
Out of his depth, really. And he's like, how am I correcting him when I have 5 minutes worth of game maker experience? And he has 8 years. This part's extremely funny because I actually did reach out. So I was in his YouTube live stream and I said,
no way! Bro, we were saying how stupid this is because you don't need to reach out anyway. But apparently he did. Anyway, like I say, I think this guy seems pretty reasonable. I'm quite comfortable that he's not some sort of just clout demon. Let's have a look at his response though and see what he's got to say.
What is up, guys?
Let's get into it.
Guys, in today's video, I want to review the top contentions that not only PirateSoftware had, but a lot of his fanboys had with my video yesterday in which I reviewed the code that he wrote for his game Heartbound. Now, while the video was a stunning success in terms of engagement, there was a couple of themes that kept repeating from detractors that I...
You okay, DK, mate? What's going on over there? DK saying this guy's hot or beautiful hair. As far as I'm aware, DK isn't gay. So I don't know where that's come from. Listen, if DK wants to appreciate the beauty of a man, that's up to him at the end of the day. Got nothing against that, obviously. Just kind of come out of left field.
I think are worth addressing in a separate video. So let's get into it. The first claim that I saw time and time again is that your code quality shouldn't matter if you're a solo game dev, and that code quality only somehow matters if you work in a team.
Hey, I've already addressed this. I already know the answer to this one.
Now, you'd think that if you're working on a passion project, you'd be interested in holding yourself to the highest possible standard, since you can make your own decisions, free of any corporate timeline, and not subject to demands of other employees.
But how do I make
Very good point. Very good point.
He reminds me of one of the cavemen from the Geico commercials, but nerdy.
Thank you, Silent but Dudley, for the $5. Appreciate that. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's your passion project. You know, I would presume that there's probably some bad coding that happens that's a product of having like super heavy deadlines and stuff, like a AAA game studio. And some of the bugs that come about are probably because people are rushed and they do something and fuck up the coding somewhere, and then they don't realize it because they've got to move on to the next task. And then all of a sudden you're fucking back figuring it out once the game's come out or something like that. Whereas he has got unlimited, well, we know he thinks he's got unlimited time. He's been doing it for fucking 8 years or whatever it is. But the point is that this is something which he can put love and care into. He could put like love and care and attention and detail and, this and that, you know. It's the difference between a chef cooking a meal at some fucking 2-bit restaurant where they got to rush meals out the door versus someone lovingly slaving away at a dish at home for a dinner party or something, right?
I say this with such confidence as if poor code is not going to hold you back in your own development process and you're somehow impervious to the effects of your poor decisions as long as you make those bad decisions yourself. Usually when you work with a team, you can get away with poorer code because you won't need to deal with the consequences of that code as you pawn it off to somebody else and work on something totally separate. But as a solo developer, you need to deal with and contend directly with all the trade-offs that you make as you make those decisions while you code your game or your project or your whatever. And
no, you might just write the code any way you want because only you need to read it. Not that I'm saying I believe PirateSoftware. But then the response to that would be that even if you're writing code for yourself, it's like you still want to do it in an optimum fashion because there's a level of wanting to show it off, right? There's a level of like other people might look at it and they'd be impressed by the expertise with which you've coded your game. Yeah, it's like, I mean, and also PirateSoftware knows this himself because he got so fucking pressed about the fucking hacking shit that he made up about the Mr. Robot stuff. He was very upset with the idea that someone had stolen someone's fucking cipher or whatever it was. So he knows this concept, but he doesn't seem to apply that to his own passion project.
In other words, every decision you make will either make life easier for you or harder for you down the line.
And also, yeah, that's the other point as well. It's not just a case of like, oh, I'm doing it myself. He's making it fucking more difficult for himself by doing it in this way. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, exactly.
As technical debt accumulates, you bear the
Right.
entire burden of that debt, which slows down development. Now, for those of you who aren't technical debt is a term that refers to the extra work you're going to need to put in down the line because you currently made a decision that was not ideal. So you are delivering something faster today, only to slow down future delivery tomorrow, the day after, the week after, the month after, etc. It's kind of like a ball and chain that's tied around your leg, and every step you take forward, that ball grows and grows and grows, which decreases the velocity of your development. Now, the fact that Heartbound has taken over 8 years to development and is still in early access, despite the fact that the game took inspiration from Undertale,
he's getting all
which
the points.
took less time to make and provided more content, is a reflection of the fact that code quality is important, and it will stifle your development if you...
Bro, he's literally hitting... Dude. Oh my God. And it's funny because I said when I watched his first video, you can't just hand wave this guy away as some hater. But that's exactly what PirateSoftware has tried to do anyway. And his core audience might buy into that. But anyone beyond that is going to see, like, well, hang on a sec. This guy just seems like he's interested in code and took an interest because you were being talked about a lot. But he's making the same points that others have already made about his game because it's correct and fair analysis of what's going on.
do not take it seriously. And it's kind of ironic because the same people that are trying to make excuses for poor code are the same people that actually play the game and are expecting features to be delivered. I don't care if his code's poor in the sense that it doesn't impact me directly. Yeah, I might care from a technical perspective to try to reconcile his game development experience or his game industry experience with who he claims to be and what he produces, but I'm not going to play his game. I don't care for his game. And the same people that do care for his game are the same people that say that it's okay for the game code to be slop, when in fact they're waiting on those same features that require the game code to be clean in order to develop and do so quickly. Now, I think that my views here...
Also, the other thing as well, I'm just taken back to, do you remember we watched... Someone played the game on stream and it was plagued with problems. Like there was one moment where the character was like, they were like walking in a place they shouldn't walk or something. Do you remember? What streamer was that? Oh, Gappy V. Yes, it was Gappy V. That was it. And he had all these like technical problems that kept cropping up. And it's like, well, there we go. The proof is in the pudding. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Okay? And you saw it there that there's problems. It's plagued with issues. It's intentionally bad for the ARG. We've been over this. Oh yeah, of course, yes. Having a game that doesn't work properly, that hasn't come out for fucking years and years, is all part of the ARG. Trust the process, guys. Trust the process. Trust the process.
Really be summarized in a dialogue that I had with Quintheo when I jumped on his stream yesterday and talked a bit more about the video. The practices that he's employed so far are practices that I'd expect from somebody that watched Khan Academy for a week, not somebody that's been working on a project for 8 years, claims to, worked at Blizzard and been around game devs, or at some certain points claimed that he's a game dev. If he just came and said, this is what I produced, I learned game dev for 1 or 2 weeks, Khan Academy, I spent an hour or two every day, I'd say that's actually good progress. But to come and claim that you're some authority in the space, this is the code you've produced, to me, there is a massive disconnect between what you say you're capable of based off your background and what you've produced. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think that really
Right,
comes
yeah,
down to
yeah.
the heart of this critique or that claim, and that is that PirateSoftware is constantly portraying himself as a sort of expert authority
Yes.
on everything that's wrong about nothing, and uses all this hyperbolic language.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. It's not about clout. It's not about, oh, I'm just covering this guy so I can get a bunch of views. It is, from his perspective, as someone who's experienced, this guy is lying. He's misrepresenting his experience and he's being dishonest. Whereas if he was like, oh yeah, I'm kind of suck at this or something, like no one's going to fucking raise an issue with that, are they? Is his name Moldavius because he's been molding all the time? Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is.
And associations, when in reality, what he's tangibly produced is below what you'd expect from a junior developer or even an intern.
People call me the Bob Ross of programming, which I think is a
Bro!
pretty big honor because I like Bob Ross's stuff.
Here, for example, he didn't say directly, I'm Bob Ross.
He's like, yes!
He said, everybody thinks I'm Bob Ross of programming. What does that mean? It's trying to paint the picture that there's a broad consensus.
Yes, exactly. If you don't like Bob, if you like Bob Ross, then maybe the implication would be different. For instance, my channel is named Coding Jesus because when I first started it, I had a long beard and resembled the figure. It was clear that he was referring to his skills. Yes, exactly like I said. But the thing is, that's intuitively, like, you can understand it intuitively. You don't need to have it explained to you. Because, I mean, it would, you know, obviously this guy's not saying he's literally coding Jesus. That would be insane and egotistical. There's a level of projection there, I think, where it's like PirateSoftware is saying that of him because that's the way that his mind works. When obviously it was more of a reference to the way he looked. Very obvious. Very obvious.
What does that mean? It's trying to paint the picture that there's a broad consensus that you are the best developer out there and you are the go-to guy for anything related to game programming, which is his niche.
You're a hacker. Like that's where you like kind of started.
An actual hacker.
An actual hacker. Like,
Yes,
not like
yes.
I'm a hacker. No, you're an actual
Not
hacker.
kidding.
You won.
Like an actual hacker.
Yeah,
Yeah, my last job was hacking power plants for the federal government. I worked for the United States Department of Energy.
So dude walks in
Dude, every clip like this is just throwing himself. It's gross.
Knob Ross.
Nobros indeed, Richard Barrett. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Oh, hang on a sec. What's this?
Undertale is the best example of this. Undertale is made by Toby Fox. Undertale is a brilliant goddamn game. It's very good. It's also coded like shit. And that's fine. If you look at the decompiles that people have done of Undertale, you'll find that there are rooms that have hundreds of if statements checking the same value, then it sets it to 0, then it checks it again before doing anything.
Is that not exactly the same thing that he's done? No?
Meaning all of those if statements did nothing except for take processing power. There are sections of the game that show, like, oh, here's an example. All the dialogue in all of Undertale is in a single switch case statement in one object. It's thousands and thousands of cases long. Single object, all of the dialogue in the game. Hard-coded into that object. Insane. Insane behavior. But it doesn't matter. You can be bad at programming and make a brilliant game that changes the entire industry.
Okay.
Undertale is the best.
That's funny, isn't it? So he's already got a pre-packaged excuse if he wants it. Well, I don't think it matters what the coding looks like. But he's not reverting to that. He's trying to claim that this guy is just wrong and his code is actually just doesn't get it because he's doing an ARG. And also, the other problem with this too is, yeah, at least Undertale fucking released. Undertale came out in a timely fashion. And also, that's true as well. I don't think that the Undertale, what's his name? Toby Fox. I don't think he's sat here trying to act like he's the Giga Chad developer with loads of experience either. Damn, tragic. Did he reach out to Toby Fox before issuing this criticism? Because I know it's very important to PirateSoftware. Apparently, there's this rule that he's got that you should reach out to someone before you talk negatively about them. Let's hope he reached out to Toby Fox before issuing this punishing critique of his code.
with a laptop and a suit, and you lean over to, who's that guy? Oh, that's the hacker from the government.
Yeah, that's the hacker.
It's even worse 'cause we go in like 3 to
what?
4 man teams, man. So like we've got a team of
Oh, you
dudes
had a
looking
fleet.
like
You had
this.
like a team of
Yeah.
dudes in
It
suits,
wasn't just
holding
me.
laptops,
Yeah,
walking into
exactly.
restricted areas.
Bro, this guy, oh, dude, I can't. It's very cringe for me to watch. The way he's kind of like sucking it, like clearly you know that he feels he's like loving this, isn't he? Well, yeah, I mean, is he trolling him? I don't fucking know, man. I don't know. What's his name? Co Carnage, is it? Is that right?
Okay, that's wonderful. But how do I make money?
Oh, you think? Okay.
He also had an emote banned on Twitch of a ferret twerking, and considering his interests, it makes me uncomfortable that he was also sexualizing cartoon actually animals. It was banned for content.
Yes. Stephen, thank you for reminding us of that, because that is a very good point. He did get an emote ban for sexual content from a ferret twerking. Very good point. Someone should look into this guy further for these sorts of things, I would say.
Federal government. I work for the United
Hacker. You're a hacker. Like,
Go-to guy for
listen
anything
again,
related
listen
to game programming, which is his niche.
you're a hacker. Like, that's where you like kind of started.
Actual hacker.
An actual hacker. Like,
Yes.
not like I'm a hacker type. No, you're an actual
Not a
hacker.
kidding.
You've
Yeah.
won.
like an actual hacker.
Yeah,
Yeah, my last job was hacking power plants for the federal government. I
Yeah.
work for the United States Department of Energy.
So
Just
dude
the
walks in with a
and
laptop and a suit, and you lean over to, who's that guy? Oh, that's the hacker from the
Yeah,
government.
that's the hacker.
It's even worse 'cause we go in like
Like
3 to
what?
4 man teams, man. So like we've got a team. Of
Oh, you
dudes
had a
looking
fleet.
Like
You had
this.
like a team
Yeah.
of dudes in
It
suits
wasn't just
holding
me.
laptops,
Yeah,
walking into
exactly.
restricted areas. Okay.
When he says
Yeah, no, I think yeah. Did I watch it before? And yeah, I think he recognizes and he's having a bit of a poke. Yeah, he's having a bit of a laugh. I don't think Co Carnage is legitimately saying that without an ounce of like irony or something. But what is interesting about it, regardless of it, is clearly he sat there with the like, dude, look.
Dudes in
Go in like
Like
3 to
what?
4 man teams.
Look at his body language here. Regardless of what the intent is, he clearly is thinking like, yeah, I'm getting a good old suck job here. I'm getting a good old suck job off these guys because I'm so based. Yes.
Man, so like we've got a team. Of
Oh, you
dudes
had a
looking
fleet.
Like
You had
this.
like a team
Yeah.
of dudes in
It
suits
wasn't just
holding
me.
laptops,
Yeah,
walking into
exactly.
restricted areas. Okay.
when he says things like this, what he's trying to paint in your mind as a viewer is that he's some sort of Unit 8200 Mossad agent writing zero-day exploits on USBs that
Israel
are
reference.
snuck into Iranian nuclear facilities and that infest and shut down the entire technical operation of that nuclear power plant. When in reality, if you look at his LinkedIn and reconcile it against his skill set, what he did was social engineering. He wrote phishing emails and tried to gain access to credentials.
Oh my god, dude, this is so good. How many views has this video got? 500,000. Oh, yes. Dude, the 50th PirateSoftware video has hit the tower, Mr. Jason. You're fucked, bro. We're getting all the good points in these videos.
and user systems that way. And so all this really culminates in the disconnect between who Thor plays himself up to be and then what he can produce. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that his GitHub is also totally empty.
Yes!
It's empty because he has nothing to show for his 20 years of experience as a veteran in the space. Now, Pirate himself also responded, and he got a bit hung up on the fact that my mouse had some variable highlighted, despite the fact that I never talked about that variable. It's actually quite funny, because I refer to every variable other than the one that he referred to in his reply. But skipping over that,
Oh, wow. So it is exactly like I fucking said. And Jason is laser focused on the piece of criticism that he thinks the weakest that he can attack whilst ignoring everything else that he said. Wow. Incredible. Wow. He's never done this before. I don't believe it.
he makes the claim that you can't define a Boolean in GameMaker because GameMaker itself doesn't have a native Boolean type in its scripting language. In other words, it interprets reals as Booleans. Now, to reconcile the fact that he used a Boolean in his code with what he said, I decided to do what any developer would do, and that is I consulted the documentation. So if you go to data types in GameMaker, oh, look at that. You are also provided with...
Oh my god, dude. A Boolean is simply a value that can either be true or false. Note that currently GameMaker will interpret a real number equal to below 0.5 as a false value, and any real number greater than 0.5 as being true. This does not mean, however, that you should be checking 1 and 0 for true and false, as you were also provided with the constants true and false, which should always be used in your code to prevent any issues should a real Boolean data type be added in a future update. Oh my god, dude! So even the fucking document, is saying, yeah, you're wrong. You should be using true or false for your Boolean values.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Oh
but how
my
do I
god,
make
dude.
money off depressed people?
Hey, Kez, thank you for the bits. Thank you. Shitting on pirate software never gets old. Indeed. Thank you for the bits. And also, isn't this the same documentation that Pirate Software was banging on about, saying that this guy needs to read because he's wrong? Isn't this that same documentation that is now pretty explicitly pointing out that Pirate Software is wrong about the Boolean value thing? Where's this comment?
Game maker, because
data types are not defined in GameMaker. You cannot define a Boolean. You can use 0 or 1 or true, false at will. None of this matters in the language. Not according to the documents.
GameMaker itself
not
doesn't
according
have
to the
a native
documents.
Boolean type in its scripting language. In other words, it interprets reals as Booleans. Now, to reconcile the fact that he used a Boolean in his code with what he said, I decided to do what any developer would do, and that is I consulted the documentation. So if you go to data types in GameMaker, oh, look at that. You are also provided with constants, true and false, which can always be used in your code to prevent any issues. Should the native Boolean type be defined later.
No.
So GML defines constants true as 1 and false as 0, and the documentation itself even recommends that you use true and false instead of reals in case that association between a Boolean and a real ever gets changed to a Boolean and some other native definition of a Boolean. So in other words, if they ever replace the aliasing of bools for reals with bools for actual bools, they recommend that you use true and false. But we know he's not going to concede on this point or admit the fact that he was wrong, given...
No, he won't. He'll never admit he's wrong. He has just been proven conclusively wrong. 100% without question, he's wrong. It says so in the documents that he's wrong. And there's no way that you can argue the writer of the document for this fucking program is somehow a clout shark or something, right? It's impossible. He's just wrong. He's wrong about this. He's factually wrong about a statement that he's made. But he's not going to admit it. Because to do so would be to admit some sort of weakness. Or what he might do is maybe in the future, he'll give some sort of like half apology for maybe being wrong about something and then claim it doesn't matter anyway. He was acting so smug and hyper-focusing on that one point because he thought it was the place he could win. And now he's been totally raped. Yes, exactly. Oh man, this is so good. Bro, I might need to keep this going after this. Apparently he spoke to Quintheo as well, so maybe we'll take a listen to that.
His track record. So let's move on to the next claim. Another comment that I've seen is that you've never worked with GameMaker, so you must not know what you're talking about. Another equally absurd variant of this is what he's writing is not C++, or anybody who has worked with technology or more than one programming language understands that languages are just toolkits.
Quintheo looks like he would be desperate to have a night with Coding Jesus. I don't know why you're saying that, mate. You were talking about how hot he was earlier.
Each toolkit is uniquely positioned to solve a given problem. Now, while there might be unique features in every toolkit, essentially there's a lot of overlap. Okay? An integer in one language is going to be very similar to an integer in another. Every language is going to have for loops, etc., etc. So while the actual toolkit might be different, the same principles, patterns, and design decisions should apply in large part to any problem that you're trying to solve. The only difference is the tools that you use to solve that problem are going to be a little different. What does that look like in practice? Take that code snippet alarm 0 equals 0, alarm 1 equals 0, alarm 2 equals 0. You don't need to copy and paste that code every single time. I'd expect an intern.
Every language does not have for loops. That's wrong. The point he's making is that, and this is what I was saying earlier without knowing any of this shit, right? Even if a very specific solution that he's proposing doesn't exactly fit within GameMaker, the broad point that he's making, that Thor is doing things incorrectly and he's not working and operating off of baseline understanding of how programming works, still applies. And I don't even know how true it is that what he was saying doesn't work, because I don't know the fucking insides outs of this. But the basic point he's making is still correct.
Or somebody learning code in Khan Academy to copy and paste. You can simply replace that all with a for loop. So what does it say about somebody that they haven't even considered to use a for loop for something as simple as this? If there's something that I regret, it's not being able to provide more substantive feedback. If you look at plenty of my other videos where I do a code review, I go into line by line the GitHub repository and break it down for my viewers, both saying what went well and what didn't go well and how can it be improved. But Thor didn't give me, or really anybody, the chance to do that with his code because all he does is share snippets and screenshots. You also shouldn't be representing an entire entity made up of health, position, maybe whether they're dead or alive, their ID, their inventory, as a number or an index into some array. That's not how you present character models or entities in game design. And I don't even need to be a game developer to understand that. I just watch 1 or 2 videos of the Churno and I already know that's the case. So hopefully you guys found this video informative or interesting. I'm going to now move on to other news. So unless anything new comes out that I think I can bring my unique perspective to, I'm going to put PirateSoftware behind me and just keep moving forward. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Cheers.
Wow. Bro. What a clout demon, guys. He's making a video. And then he's made a video responding to PirateSoftware because he spoke about it. And then he's moving on. It's so obvious that he's not some grifter, clout shark, whatever the else fucking PirateSoftware called him. Dude, I feel like I need to talk to this guy and say, dude, there's at least fucking 10 more videos in this. Come on, let's have at it. But obviously that's not his thing. That's obviously not his thing. He obviously is interested in coding. Doesn't want to get into the ins and outs of the drama of it. Very based. I'm going to subscribe even though I don't know anything about coding and probably won't find most of it.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Okay, guys, right, let's just do this. Okay, so this is apparently Quintheo talking to Coding Jesus.
And an obfuscation tactic at worst, because as you can see, this is disingenuous at best and an obfuscation tactic at worst, because as you can see here, there's a lot of numbers here. It's very obvious when I'm talking about a magic number. I'm talking about things like 1, 0, 15, 270, 360. I'm not talking about what my mouse just happens to be highlighting, which is SPR Spark. Yeah, and that's actually not my cursor, that's his. I just realized, because that's his video that I'm looking at. I can't highlight his code in his video. So he has his cursor on Spark, and I'm talking about all the numbers around that, but he's zoning in on Spark.
Yeah, also, yeah, I do think we need to register this. PirateSoftware tried to crucify Coding Jesus.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Bro, that's such a good title. DK, steal that. Steal that.
14 when they
We're stealing that.
HTML plus Java. That was like grade 9, so it's not too crazy to be doing tech stuff at age 15.
Thank you, Cassie Flocky, for the super chats. Thank you. Ooh, nice title you got there, Quintheo. Ooh, don't mind if I do. Thank you very much. Plus fucking 30k views. Thank you very much. Lovely.
It doesn't make sense. I don't know why he decided to do that. He has this repeating theme where somebody gives him a question and then he pivots to something that somebody didn't even ask or address to try to get out of that question.
Now recently, like just yesterday, this guy right here, Coding Jesus, he had put out a video talking about PirateSoftware's code and that he had reviewed it and was not super stoked about it. Now I watched that video on stream yesterday and had the privilege to actually chat with Coding Jesus, and then he was also making a second video which he had just put out a couple hours ago now as well. Now in tandem with this happening, Livestream put out a video showcasing clips of PirateSoftware responding to Code Jesus, dissecting Heartbound's code. And it's
Bro, you don't understand how it's so rare that this happened. Normally they put like a 30-second clip or something like that up of someone's stream. But they literally took a fucking 7-minute segment of his stream and put it onto LSF. This guy is so despised at the moment. It's wild. Yes. In fact, I spoke to Quintheo the other day. We had a sort of, for fun debate, really. We didn't really disagree that much, but we talked about what is harassment and so on. But yeah, we spoke the other day about this. Anyway, go and give Quintheo a sub. Quintheo is a good. I like Quintheo stuff. We've had our disagreements in the past, but we're good.
7 minutes and 30 seconds of clips. Now, some of this stuff was technical talk. Other things were actual points that I myself could talk about.
And also, I just want to point out he was unwilling to tie the knot. But that's okay, I get it. He's trying to keep it more straight on down the line.
Figured if I'm going to cover these clips, I think the best way to do that would be to do it with Code Jesus. So I hopped in a call with him. We had both watched the clip prior, and we went over and addressed the most important points through those clips. Now, just a quick 10 seconds before we jump into this video, I highly recommend that you check out Coding Jesus. What we cover in this is just those clips, but these two videos that he's put out have gone into full detail and really go into explaining his points of view. And for those of you who are really into coding and understand it, he does excellent stuff. And so in this, I'm just trying to, make sure that I can also give to you guys a summary that's a bit more digestible for those who don't. But with all that being said, I hope you enjoy the video.
Jesus can help you? You mean the guy who's never used GameMaker Studio, doesn't know GameMaker language, and talked a lot of shit but was wrong?
What's kind of embarrassing for him is I have around 5 minutes of experience worth of GameMaker, and I was still able to correct him on the data types within the game in my recent response video by simply referencing the documentation.
Hey!
Program
Thank you for the
like
$10.
Master Chef's basic cooking techniques: saute, bake, boil. Programmers know the basics, like Turing completeness. All computer langs, core principles that cook the same.
Thank you for the $10. Oh, also, dude, whenever you have something like go bigger than your channel, like for example, that VOD has got like 75,000 views from the Soggy Cereal React we did.
Okay, that's wonderful. But how do I make money off depressed
And
people?
Kong, thank you for the super chats.
Stuck watching PirateSoftware slop. I can't escape. My bulbous glandis is engorged with blood and I stuck inside the contracting walls.
Okay, dude. Thank you for the super chat. But there's some comments, and you get some kind of people that obviously don't watch your stuff that come along and like are a bit miffed about some detail of your channel that they don't like. So for example, and it's funny because that just happened there, people complain about the fact that there's super chats. And it's like, I don't really care, to be honest, if you don't like the super chats, because obviously that's one of my predominant kind of like forms of income on this channel. So if it genuinely is bothersome to you, I guess you'll have to go watch someone else. But yeah, obviously I'm not going to like skip super chats or whatever. It's like, it can be part of the content too. It can be fun part of the content. I don't know why people are so mad about the super chats.
So that's an iconic statement for
Anyway,
him.
I did miss that,
for
bud.
him is I have around 5 minutes of experience worth of GameMaker, and I was still able to correct him on the data types within the game in my recent response video by simply referencing the documentation. So that's an iconic statement from him right off the bat. All right, we can continue.
Okay.
Should look at my comment underneath this video. Imagine screaming and shitting about alarms in GameMaker saying, why aren't these renamed when you literally can't rename them? Wild behavior. It's just another, YouTube grifter trying to fight for relevance, dude. It's all that shit is. All too common these days.
Have you ever talked about Pirate before this? Like, what got you interested in covering this?
Yeah, what got me interested in covering it is somebody who talks a big game and then I want to investigate, is what they produced coherent with who they portray themselves as, right? So when he says, I'm a grifter, I think I've actually been doing this for longer than he has. I build a consistent audience producing content that plays towards the exact same theme, which is getting better at development. I never came onto YouTube claiming I'm the best. It's actually a learning journey for me as well, but I'm not understanding what I'm grifting on. I'm producing content that's consistent with my channel. I'm not changing my message to cater towards somebody else.
Have you covered...
Yes, dude, it is a completely baseless and bogus criticism that he is grifting. Because in order to grift, he would, the predominant real meaning of it is saying something that you don't believe for some perceived benefit, right? So we need to either be misrepresenting what he thinks or believes in order for a monetary gain, or if you want to be more colloquial about it, it's that he's taken a sharp pivot away from his normal type of content in order to cover something he wouldn't normally cover in order to capitalize on the views. But this is totally in line with the content that he does. It's not his fault that PirateSoftware has got a lot of attention on him at the moment, and therefore any video criticizing him ends up getting a lot of views. It's nasty that you can baselessly slander some hard day's worker to your massive audience just because they told the truth about you. Yeah, it's fucked up, man. It's wrong. It's totally wrong. If you want to call this guy a dickhead, a loser, whatever fucking name you can think of to fucking shit on him, fine. But that is like a more slanderous aspect, because it's like you're claiming that he's like dishonest. He's dishonestly presenting things when he's not. What he said is truthful, and funnily enough, in complete good faith. He is making good faith criticisms that he believes of your work, and you just hand wave it away as, oh, he's a total grifter. Like, you can talk shit, fine, but it just seems like making baseless claims about someone like that is like deranged.
Okay, that's wonderful.
other
But
people
how
in
do I
like
make
quote unquote
money
coding
off
drama
pressing
in the past.
Yo Chad, long time lurker. Keep it going. BTW YAML file is basically the options in a video games. You change the difficulty in options and it affects the whole game. You don't need to change the difficulty on every single enemy one
Got it,
by
okay.
one Zox.
Well, Anon Person with a very generous £50 super chat. Thank you. I very much appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Super generous. Yeah, not on the... Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, like, obviously I've spoken about some lawsuit takes that people don't like, of like, you know, big YouTubers, like, filing fucking defamation suits and stuff. Generally speaking, I'm not, like, a massive fan of that. There's something should be done about it. It just feels wrong. It feels like it's wrong. Fortunately, he's not getting away with it, and people, I think, are calling this out. So that's good, I guess.
Past.
I haven't covered coding drama. I've done code reviews of other people in my Discord community, other individuals as well, my own code. I've done coding live streams. So when I saw somebody that had a dev live stream that talked about video game development, I wanted to check it out. And little did I know it would be a goldmine because it would expose him for his inability to remain congruent with who he portrays he is.
Manually setting all to 0 with 8 lines. Those were set to 0 because it was ending the alarms. By setting them to 0, you're actually setting the alarm to off.
So pause there. So his chatter actually corrects him by identifying my critique. As a developer, you shouldn't be copying and pasting alarm, alarm, alarm.
So that's what was happening there. He was being criticized, and he just sort of like didn't really meaningfully engage with it.
Alarm equals 0 and setting it to 0 for every object in the array. So what he's doing here is a classic example of deflection. He pretends the chatter asked, why do you set the alarms to 0, instead of the question, which was, why don't you iterate over them in a for loop? A for loop is a very basic coding construct. If you're iterating through a consecutive set of numbers, you definitely want to use that. It's the perfect scenario for a for loop. But he pretends that he didn't understand the question, and then tries to answer something else.
I'm also trying to think of like how we can make it easier for people that are outside of coding to understand. So there's essentially a much more...
Okay, yes, Quintheo. Dude, Quintheo is speaking to me and only me, because I was sat there thinking, okay, the for loop thing, I kind of heard about this before, I don't know what it exactly means. But doesn't this, because some people were claiming you can't use this loop thing in Game Maker. But I guess that's not true then. Right? Okay. I don't know, bro.
More efficient way to do what he's doing that a rudimentary coder would understand to do. And he completely reshapes the question to avoid having to admit that.
Yeah, another point as well is, if he did not want to use a for loop, instead of associating an alarm with an index like alarm 0, alarm 1, alarm 2, because as somebody reviewing code, it's not very evident what that actually refers to. He could have set alarm and then had a variable called left and set it to 0 and indexed into that alarm array or alarm data structure with the variable left. So I would know that this alarm, whatever it is, it's associated with the left boundary of his character or object. So there was 2 approaches he could have taken here. Both would have been better, but he chose to ignore both.
Can't see your comment? Did he delete it? That'd be even funnier. You deleted the comment? That would be...
Okay. He's talking about making it more readable. Right, got it, okay. Loops are logic problems. You can make a loop in any programming language, even if there isn't a built-in process to do so. Okay. I trust Stylo on this one, because he's speaking so authoritatively about it. A lot of you are, to be honest, and I just am just accepting what you're saying. So hopefully you're not wrong, or worse, I'm going to look like a right fucking mug, aren't I? More so than normal.
Even funnier.
Yeah, I didn't delete the comment.
No, it's still there.
Yeah, there you go. It's still there.
I wrote this underneath this video.
Him talking about people like taking this way too seriously and having these gripes. And he is taking time to downvote the other comments. The only other 2 you can see on screen.
I think the
Oh, yeah, dude. Oh, fuck. Dude, that's a detail I didn't notice earlier, actually. People were pointing it out. So thank you for pointing it out, but I didn't comment on it, right? Okay. He is actually, he's so fucking mad and pressed and seething about this that he's spurging out in a chain of YouTube comments responding to random people, okay? And then he's also going down, like, voting down on comments here too. Oh, is that, bro, imagine that. Fucking scrolling, oh, thumbs down, thumbs down, thumbs down, thumbs down. He's so fucking mad, it's unbelievable. And he's also liked his own comment too. Jesus Christ, dude. Downvoting YouTube comments is nuts, man. Because it does, I don't actually know 100%, but I don't even know if it really does anything anyway. It's like, I don't know, what is the purpose of that? Because I think it's based on how many likes it's got. I'm pretty sure it does nothing. But he's so mad he doesn't think about that and does it anyway.
The more important thing here is that when he went to, oh, he definitely deleted my comment, that was a bit of projection. I think that's probably the first thing he thinks about when he thinks of a comment that he doesn't like. And then later he realized, oh, you didn't delete I don't delete comments. The only time I'll delete a comment if it's like a death threat or something extremely egregious. But if you disagree with me, I have no problem with your comment remaining up and people discussing it. It's more.
Anyway, so I'm getting distracted, sorry.
He went to, oh, he definitely deleted my comment. That was a bit of projection. I think that's probably the first thing he thinks about when he thinks of a comment that he doesn't like. And then later...
Bro, he has gotten banned to rights. He knows. Bro, Coding Jesus has taken one look at this guy and he knows everything about him. That is 100% what it is. That's how PirateSoftware sees it. Comment gone, must be deleted. Because that's what this fucking loser does. That's exactly his mentality with this shit. Yes, correct. Exactly right. Whereas it could just be it's not present and you have to scroll down a bit or something.
He realized, oh, you didn't delete I don't delete comments. The only time I'll delete a comment if it's like a death threat or something extremely egregious. But if you disagree with me, I have no problem with your comment remaining up and people discussing it. It's more engagement for me. The only reason he mentioned that he thinks I deleted his comment is because that's what he does. You go on his live stream, you'll see somebody comment hashtag stop killing games, and then in 3 seconds that comment's gone. His moderators have taken it out. So a lot of this is projection as well.
I think he was probably expecting, as you know, a lot of his comments, even when he's getting ratioed, end up climbing their way to the top, but they aren't. Matter of fact, I was trying to find the comment and I had to confirm with Coding Jesus, he had to search for the comment because he couldn't find it himself because it's been absolutely buried because nobody is taking him seriously. And maybe he was just expecting that it would go to the top like most of his stuff has done for, I don't know, the last couple of years. And then secondly, if I get hate comments, I don't even react to them. Like, what's the point of even downvoting them? It doesn't matter. They have some sort of criticism or they're making fun of me. Like, I'm getting a bunch of like milking comments for going over this. Okay. Like, I can't even waste the time to downvote it. It doesn't matter. If people are going to...
Let's go, based! That's what I'm talking about. He's right, though. He is absolutely right. There's literally no value in concerning yourself with a bunch of people. Like, you know, and don't get me wrong, right? It can be irritating when you get a bunch of people commenting on your video. Obviously, sometimes you see it. Because basically, when you access YouTube Studio, you know, it gives you like the top latest comments at the bottom. And kind of instinctively, you can end up just looking at them. And if there's like a comment there that's like really stupid, you're like, fuck's sake, what an idiot. You know what I mean? But like... going to someone else's video, maybe having a look at some sentiment, I can understand that. But then actually reading it and downvoting the comment, or just downvoting the comment, is utterly like a deranged behavior.
Say what they say, me putting a thumbs down isn't going to change any of it. And it just, I don't know. It's interesting, at least, that I saw that he was doing it.
Sprite Spark is not a magic number. It's a direct reference to an asset file called Sprite Spark. This is how GameMaker allows you to link sprites and other assets. When you want to use a sprite, sound, or other object, you call it by name.
This is disingenuous at best and an obfuscation tactic at worst because, as you can see here, there's a lot of numbers here. It's very obvious when I'm talking about a magic number. I'm talking about things like 1, 0, 15, 270, 360. I'm not talking about what my mouse just happens to be highlighting, which is SPR Spark.
That's
for
like,
whatever reason.
Yeah, that's like him saying, oh, look, he's talking about and giving me shit about my turtles. And the part of the video is talking about all of the zebras, and you just happen to have your cursor sitting on a turtle.
Yeah, and that's actually not my cursor, that's his. I just realized, because that's his video that I'm looking at. I can't highlight his code in his video. So he has his cursor on Spark, and I'm talking about all the numbers around that, but he's zoning in on Spark. It doesn't make sense. I don't know why he decided to do that. He has this repeating theme where somebody gives him a question, and then he pivots to something that somebody didn't even ask or address to try to get out of that question.
Changing this just...
Yeah, so, yeah, he's more or less there, I think. But the reason he's doing that is because, from his perspective, that's the easiest thing that he can focus on to attack that allows him to kind of win or be correct on a given point. So he does know. I mean, he kind of said it there, didn't he, really? But he does understand it, I think. He does cut straight to the heart of him, yeah. He's Jesus, after all. He can see all of our sins. I don't know.
It's something that somebody didn't even ask or address to try to get out of that question.
So yeah, he does get it, yeah. That's exactly what he does. See Dr. K interview, indeed, yes.
This just creates layers of obfuscation without improving usability or performance. Alarms are internal to individual objects and only reference that same object that they're inside of. When you see alarm 0, it's hitting the alarm 0 on the left side of the object there. We cannot rename these as they are tied to the object they are placed in. Setting an alarm 0 causes that alarm to stop.
So my critique wasn't against the name alarm. It was against what he needed to explain to me to make clear. And that is that the index 0 corresponds to the alarm on the left. The fact that he needed to explain this to me is already a concession that it wasn't clear enough in his code. When you look at alarm 0, you have no idea what that alarm belongs to. What is 0? If he declared a variable called left, set it to 0, and then indexed into the alarm data structure or alarm array or alarm construct, whatever he'd like to call it, then I would know at least that he's trying to represent a direction. But as it stands, it's not clear.
And your best way to explain it, so a lot of the contention that I see, a lot of the criticism that your video has received.
Variable shitto. Okay. I think he's banking on having a loyal fan base that will never seek the other voices in this issue and only ever listen to his and therefore believe his silence rate is so disgusting. Exactly what he did with Stop Killing Games, by the way. Exactly the same process. The only difference now is that he's got more people that are willing to be critical of him because his reputation is diminished greatly, particularly since the World of Warcraft drama back in January. But you saw it there as well, where basically he didn't even play the video, but he did read out his comments, so we got to completely frame what the criticism was. But some points it wasn't even what the guy was saying. It wasn't even what Coding Jesus was saying.
Is that a lot of people think that, okay, but in a perfect world, Thor Pirate Software is not going to be sharing this code with you. It's only for him, only he needs to understand it. So outside of, trying to explain these points to you, because they're clearly, harder to unless he directly explains to you what's going on, why else would it be important to organize it differently or make it more readable?
I think the biggest point as to why it's important to make it more readable is that over time, as you code and you implement bad coding practices, you accumulate something called technical debt. Technical debt is a concept, for those that are not technical, where you make choices today that are not optimal in favor of expedience, and those choices end up biting you back in the future. So the more you copy and paste code, the more you couple classes together, the more you make decisions for the sake of getting something out the door, as opposed to doing it right, the harder...
Yeah, I think DK's been saying this a few times today, and I think it's true. I mean, he gets like 8K live viewers, he probably could just ignore it all. But because of his nepotistic trauma, he can't ignore attacks on his credibility or his entire life is at stake. Yeah, exactly. There was no reason to respond to this. He could have just, he could have just hand-waved it away. He could have been gracious even and said, oh yeah, he made some interesting points. I'll take it into consideration, but I'm looking to just move forward and not cover all the drama about me at the moment or something, and that'd be fine. But he paid attention to it and did so dishonestly, didn't actually address some of the core criticisms made and framed it all around his comments so he could paint it however he wanted to his audience,
it is to continuously progress, because you're going to need to constantly looking back behind your shoulder and changing things which might have ripple effects throughout your code. Maybe copying and pasting in this case is fine. But what I'm trying to get to here, because I have such a lack of actual evidence of him coding, is that there is a very obvious pattern here. A pattern of poor coding practices, which might or might not be the reason why this game has taken 8 years to develop.
Essentially, I mean, a lot of people understand like spaghetti code. If you cut corners at the beginning, think about like maybe even League of Legends, and I'm not, here to give League of Legends shit, but an issue that can arise from doing something like that is that when you push out an update, suddenly something that has nothing to do with the update is now completely broken or doing something it shouldn't be, and that's because you didn't code it properly to begin with, which...
Imagine the utter raping if to an audience of 10K he goes, I'm just an indie dev making a game out of passion and these people are attacking me, but he can't downplay his skills even that much. Well, this is the problem he's really wriggled himself into, is so much of his credibility relies on his experience, when it's turning out his experience is massively overstated and embellished. And so now it's very tricky for him to really maneuver, because it's like he has to somewhat admit that, yeah, he's been overzealous in stating what his experience and whatnot is. PirateSoftware not knowing how Boolean values work is some of the funniest shit I've ever fucking seen. Motherfuckers literally arguing the basic programming rules. Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't understand it at the start of this stream, and now I do, because it's quite, it seems like a fairly straightforward principle. You know, you can understand the principle quite easily. And he's sat here fucking arguing a toss about it. He's trapped in a Boolean prison of his own making. Yes.
Just ends up making things take way longer than if you had just done it right and taken, you know, a few extra minutes, a few extra hours at the beginning.
Yeah, and that a few extra hours might just mean more robust test cases. It might mean you took a shortcut in how you wrote a class, and now it's tied to something else, and that tie has secondary or tertiary effects on that object now. And that wasn't picked up because you have poor testing, or because you didn't integration test enough. So yeah, that's correct.
Data types are not defined in GameMaker. You cannot define a Boolean. You can use 0, 1, or true, false. It will. It doesn't do anything. None of this matters in this language.
The Boolean and the data types.
Okay.
So I'd like to interpret this in two ways, because what he could have been saying here when he says data types are not defined is that you can't create your own custom data types, which is indeed wrong. You can create structures in GameMaker. It's in the documentation, search up structs and constructors. But maybe he wasn't referring to structs, maybe he was referring to Booleans, which also just isn't true. In one of my more recent videos, I investigated that. I pulled up the GameMaker documentation, and I read the Boolean instructions. So you would even be able to play this section of the video. I think that would probably be better. He makes the claim that you can't define a Boolean in GameMaker because GameMaker itself doesn't have a native Boolean type in its scripting language. In other words, it interprets reals as Booleans. Now, to reconcile the fact that he used a Boolean in his code with what he said, I decided to do what any developer would do, and that is I consulted the documentation. So if you go to data types in GameMaker, oh, look at that. You are also provided with constants, true and false, which can always be used in your code to prevent any issues. Should the native Boolean type be defined later. So GML defines constants true as 1 and false as 0, and the documentation itself even recommends that you use true and false instead of reals in case that association between a Boolean and a real ever gets changed to a Boolean and some other native definition of a Boolean. So in other words, if they ever replace the aliasing of bools for reals with bools for actual bools, they recommend that you use true and false. But we know he's not going to concede on this point or admit the fact that he was wrong, given his track record. So let's move on to the next claim.
Since it's like, you know, coding speak.
I must say, even as a PirateSoftware hater, it's kind of rough seeing himself raped so hard on that point. I mean, dude, like you literally talking a big game about this guy should go and look at the docs, and the docs prove you wrong. So it's multi-layered. It's like, so you were just wrong on that point. And also, does that not show that you haven't actually read the docs yourself, that you're fucking trying to tout as needing to read to know about this? Pretty rough.
Essentially, let's try to boil down just essentially what it is for people who don't have the coding language. So
he's wrong that Booleans don't exist. The documentation says to use Booleans as true and false because while they are currently aliasing integers, in the future, GameMaker may support a native Boolean data type. So the documentation itself, which you can see in my video, specifies please use true and false because in the future, they might actually refer or be replaced by native Boolean types instead of integers. Yeah, as you can see the highlighted text here. You're also provided with constants true and false, which should always be used in your code to prevent any issues should real Boolean data types be added in the future.
The expectation is that is going.
He's technically correct in saying Booleans don't exist. They're just aliases right now. No. He didn't say that though, if you read the comment. He said it doesn't matter, which isn't true. The document says it does matter, and you should code in the, correct way in order to account for potential future changes.
Going to be integrated in the future, and you should act accordingly as though that is going to be true, because number one, it's going to work for you, and number two, that prevents you from, your code from completely shitting the bed when that is to happen, like when it is to be introduced.
Yeah, your code is not going to shit the bed when it is introduced, but it currently makes your code a lot more descriptive. It makes your code currently more descriptive, and when they come out with the update that adds these native Boolean types, as opposed to having Booleans just reflect 1 and 0 numbers, then you'll have an easy transition. When you look at his code, for example, in my first video, you look at his if statement or one of his switch statements, he has a variable called question true, and he sets it to 1 or 0. Now, if you're totally new to programming, or even if you're a seasoned developer, you look at a variable called question true, and then you see it being set to a number, you're asking yourself, what's going on? First of all, why is the variable called question true? That already implies that the result is true. Why would it be false? That's confusing. But also, why would it be a number? Question true should probably be true or false. But for some reason, he's setting it to a number. The documentation states, currently, 1 and 0 is interpreted as true or false. But regardless, please use true and please use false, because in the future, if we add a native Boolean type, they will be switched out. So true and false, instead of being 1 or 0 as the underlying type, it'll be an actual Boolean type.
What he's saying here, like the argument that he's trying to make, is that I am getting the same output, I'm getting the same outcome by writing 0, 1/true or false. And the whole point of it is you are kind of disorganizing yourself and creating that technical debt that you were referring to earlier by making it this non-descriptive.
Yeah, I would say so. And it's not necessarily technical.
See, the thing this guy doesn't understand is that Thor knows more than the game maker devs. Oh, I see. He's outclassed them too. They're just grifters. Whoever wrote that guide, grifter, hate monger, and also they sent me a death threat and swatted me yesterday. That's what we're failing to misunderstand here from Thor's perspective, from Jason's perspective.
Technical debt because, yeah, it's confusing to look at, but it's not confusing to the point where it might screw up other parts of your code. The way that I'd like to think about it is his use of 1 or 0 here is not adding technical debt per se, but it's making his code more bug prone.
Okay, so just creating an environment where it's more often to happen than not.
Exactly.
You can read about the ARG here. It's just a bunch of disingenuous arguments put up in bad faith trying to make me look like a bad programmer. And in reality, this guy has never used the engine that I'm working in, never used the language that I'm working with, and all of his points are moot as a result.
So this is what I commented on, because he's saying I'm trying to make him look bad. He doesn't recognize that he himself is making him look bad. That statement, in my opinion, is a bit pathetic, because despite the fact that I've never used this engine, even I know that he's doing things incorrectly, at worst, and sloppily at best, while claiming, that other people view...
Oh, hey, iWrestlers. The ARG is basically the idea that he's using magic numbers in order to create a game that people can use in order to hack his game. That's the claim that he's made. That probably will come up later.
Him as the Bob Ross of programming. So in our discussions, we already brought up the fact that yes, he should be using true and false instead of 1 and 0. The documentation tells him to. He mentioned that you can't define data types. The documentation shows you can define structs and objects. He's at this point, it's just a denial of reality. And that's why I said I kind of want to move past this. I had made my 2 videos. There's nothing else that I can add that's unique, and there's nothing else that I can really help here, because you can bring a cow to the well, but you can't get it to drink.
Then also in that hand, I think it would be important for people, again, yes, you've never worked with this particular, is it a game engine or a language?
Yeah.
Bro, this guy, it's so funny because this guy is not like a drama guy. He's not coming along to do anything bad to him even. He just wants to talk about the code. And he's just kind of casually exposing him for all of his worst possible traits in this little drama that's popped up off the back of this. This obviously wouldn't have happened without the recent Stop Killing Game stuff. It's obviously what led him to make the video. But this does operate, I think, separately, from the Stop Killing Game stuff, because it's a separate issue, really, realistically. It's not directly linked to his comments in Stop Killing Games. And yet he's just completely exposing him on various counts for his attitude, his conduct, his behavior, and so on. Most casual felting, yes.
Game Maker.
Okay, so you haven't used this particular thing. You haven't used Game Maker. So what enables you to so easily understand that what the decisions he's making are wrong, besides the fact that you're able to just kind of research a few of them right off the bat?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do think that him saying that is also another reflection of inexperience. I've personally taken constructive feedback from people who are better software engineers than me, who have never coded in some of the languages that I have. And that's because good software engineers can recognize patterns and apply principles in an appropriate context. It's like saying, oh, you've never had cancer, so you don't know that it's bad. That's obviously preposterous, right? You can code, and as you code, You gain an understanding of how things should be designed. What are general principles to follow?
Yes. Principles,
What's
yes.
good code versus bad code? What does clean code look like? How should you organize your code? And a lot of those principles are language agnostic.
Meaning it's just across the board that those are the same.
It's like, you know, I was trying to think of the best example for this. It would be like a doctor, right? Imagine there's a doctor and he makes some sort of comment about something that isn't his exact speciality, right? Whilst he's not necessarily going to know certain technical aspects of maybe certain treatment, he's going to have like a broad overview because he's gone to fucking university for years to learn being a doctor, right? So some of the fundamental aspects you're still going to be able to assess and figure out. And whilst there's some sort of detailed aspect that maybe you're not going to know because it's like unique to that particular speciality, you're still going to have a baseline understanding of it to be able to at least make some comments about it or offer some criticism, you know? Or video games is another good example, yeah. There are certain principles that exist across various different games of various different genres. And so as a pro, even if you don't play a game, you're probably going to be able to give some commentary that is more worthwhile than a layman because you've got at least some baseline understanding of the mechanics of it, even if you don't know the exact particulars of that game, you know? Yeah, a plumber, electrician. A plumber is not necessarily going to know how to wire a house, but they're going to have a baseline understanding of things like organizing a project, you know, whatever the case would be. They're going to have like a baseline understanding to be able to have some commentary on it that's worth listening to, you know? So it's like, it doesn't really matter that you don't, I mean, you know, and that's even more extreme because there could be things that you genuinely can't do. Like an electrician might not be able to do something a plumber's got speciality in. But with this, it's like, well, the bare bones are even more similar. The bare bones are even more comparable in the different, because you're still coding, it's just in different fucking programs or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're an electrician, okay, you might not be able to plumb a toilet, but you're going to be able to walk into a house and go, you've plumbed the toilet wrong because there's fucking water flowing out of it everywhere, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like, maybe that's a bit too simplistic. But there's probably going to be some baseline that you're going to understand if someone's fucked something up tremendously. But yeah.
Same kind of standards.
Exactly.
I think, I mean, for me, and I think a lot of other people, like the understanding of coding languages and the way that Pirate talks about it, it makes it seem as though each of these languages, or like when you are developing a game, you can attribute more of what he's, you know, viewing this criticism as like stylistic or almost personal choices that because you're doing the endeavor on your own, you can curtail or just completely avoid doing it the technically correct way. And so he's making you look like a snob as opposed to, no, this is just the standard that you should be held to in general if you've been coding specifically like for 8 years on a single game.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's bitching about shit that is not changeable inside of GameMaker. Which, you know, I would expect a little bit better from someone named Coding Jesus. But I've got the ego, right?
So why are you known as Coding Jesus? Is it because you're a savant of coding?
Not at all. So initially my channel was just my name.
Right.
And when I was first starting out, somebody said, hey, dude, you got a really long beard. At the time, I did have like a longer, fuller beard. And you got this like luscious long hair. Why don't you give yourself a name that will really stand out in people's minds? It wasn't, the impetus for my channel name wasn't, I'm this god amongst men and I'm looking down from here on everybody and I'm this authority figure. The name stems from branding effectively. You really look like this guy. Yeah, you see that picture with the Patreon right below?
Yeah.
The second line. And then
you look like
the,
Jesus. That's just, it's it.
And then the one right there, so my coding journey right beside, right? So that's the inspiration.
Yeah, and you've got like
That's
the white coloring in the background. It's the hair, it's the beard. That's so simple.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with my own perceived technical acumen or my own skill set. It's just, this is a suggestion that I went with because it reflected the image at the time, purely on the physical appearance.
Yeah, and you're also, I don't know, I haven't seen you do any like quote unquote ego checking when it comes to you analyzing.
Hey, thank you, Cornwall, for the super
Recently,
chat.
my lunch doctor pointed something out which I have to consult with a surgeon. It's not his specific field, but it's known in medicine overall.
Thank you, Cornwall, for the super chat. Yeah, I don't get any sort of vibe of this guy being particularly egotistical. I find it very difficult to believe this guy with the kind of content that he does and the way he's gone about it has got like the massive ego about him. He seems like, I mean, obviously I don't know him. I've not watched all his videos. But he seems fairly humble and realistic and fair enough in what he's saying, right?
Analyzing his code. It's all just assessing the basic standards that he should be meeting with the jobs that he has talked about having. Or
Also, I don't think he was even particularly rude or like harsh in what he said. I don't think he even was like particularly insulting. He was just saying, your experience is supposedly here based on your statements, but the actual output of your work is here. And that's a concern because you've claimed you're here, but you're actually here. That's all it is. Like, what is wrong with that? That's literally perfectly legitimate to point out that someone's actual output is seemingly lower than what their stated knowledge is. Completely reasonable to point out.
he references them, you would expect that he would be at those metrics. And that's what you're calling out. There's a difference between being reductive towards, you know, an analysis of his code versus being reductive by bolstering your own skills, which you don't do in your videos.
Yeah, nowhere in my video do I say, hey guys, this guy's game dev sucks. Come to me, watch me do game dev. In all my videos, or all my videos, really the last two, I'm giving an example of where he screwed up and showing somebody one of many potential avenues to improve. It's up to them to consider the benefits, costs, and trade-offs.
Is he a web dev or something? I have no idea, but he clearly doesn't know this language. You can review languages, many concepts are transferable. Concepts can be transferable, but specifics are not, and that's the problem. This person called out a bunch of specifics as they would in another language that are not correct in this language.
This is another example of him being corrected by a chatter and then refusing to acknowledge that the chatter even has a morsel of truth in his statement. So this is what we were discussing previously, that concepts, patterns, these are all transferable skills between languages. You'll often find software engineers in their career doing 5 years of C++ and then maybe transitioning to Python or Q/KDB or whatever other language. That's because these...
Hey, thank you, Super Chat. I'm a dev by trade and I'm for being the best in my corporation, a mediocre at best. And what coding users doing happens all the time at work. You hear criticism when you get better, it's basic. Yeah, exactly.
Skills, languages. You'll often find software engineers in their career doing 5 years of C++ and then maybe transitioning to Python or Q/KDB or whatever other language. That's because these skills are transferable. That in itself is wrong, but nothing that I reviewed was as specific as I would have liked it to be, because in all his streams, or really in none of his streams, did he go into specifics himself. He didn't have any specific content for me to review. He had 4 screenshots and an over 60 hours worth of game dev streams. So I could only be as specific as he was allowing me to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you don't have anything to actually go off of in terms of like actually analyzing him performing the actions. If you only have such little data to go off of, you can only give, you know, your point of view off of the end product, which is the code.
Exactly, and then extrapolate based off of that. So extrapolate conclusions like, now I know why it took so long to develop this game, or whatever other conclusion, right? He doesn't give anybody any basis by which they can go into the level of specifics that are up to his standard. A lot of his answers, a lot of his responses have been obfuscation, which is, it's one of the reasons even watching this makes my head hurt, which is why I want to move on with other content personally. But I get it that like this guy he's just out of his, I don't want to say out of his mind, but he's
out of his depth.
Out of his depth, really. And he's like, how am I correcting him when I have 5 minutes worth of Game Maker experience? And he has 8 years.
Like I said, you're going to see...
Oh my god, oh dude, that's so good. Who would have thought a couple of nerds fighting about code would be such good content, man?
A whole lot of people on YouTube trying to pick at me like piranhas to get their 15 minutes of fame.
I don't have much to add there other than he effectively brushed all my legitimate criticism about his code under the rug and then just attacked my character by effectively saying that I'm just doing this for what, clicks or views or clout or whatnot. I've been posting content consistently with my own vision for years.
Yes.
And that vision has been to help people become better developers. I have been showing a consistent track record of building a community that's looking to get better in software engineering.
Bro, we literally scrolled through his channel, unless there's further down some sort of drama farming videos. All this guy does is bang on about coding. There was one title I read out and it was like, what is this? Dude, this is hardly the fucking thing you want to be doing if you want to farm views and AdSense. So he obviously is not in it for this. And the fact that he's already said, oh, I'm moving on from PirateSoftware. I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't begrudge him making a couple more videos about this, but clearly that's not what he's in it for. And he just felt like he was being besmirched by PirateSoftware and reasonably wanted to respond to that. God, it's so fucked, man. It's so fucked that this fucking wretched individual PirateSoftware gets to just say the shit about this guy on his stream when none of it's true.
Haven't done like a coverage of something like drama, really. It's just been reviews of other code. So there isn't even like what a lot of people have an issue with Pirate, a pattern of behavior. This is the first time you've like really dipped your toes into, I don't even want to call it, trend surfing, but it happened to be relevant at the time. And it also happened to fit in line with your expertise so you could actually comment on it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look at the video that I made prior to the video that I made on him, I reviewed somebody else's code. When he came onto my radar, I said, well, hey, let's take a look at his code now. The grift, maybe if I was this YouTuber with 30 subscribers and I had no previous history on YouTube, then you can say maybe I'm just trying to jump on some bandwagon. But I have consistent history of speaking to software engineers, doing code reviews, writing my own code, describing my own code, doing live streams about coding. So it's really just an ad hominem attack to try to bury me and shove all my legitimate criticism into my grave. That's what he's trying to do.
Either way, video's dumb. Dude probably should have reached out instead of talking shit.
This part's extremely funny because I actually did reach out. So I was in his YouTube live stream and I said,
No way! Bro, we were saying how stupid this is because you don't need to reach out anyway. And PirateSoftware hasn't reached out when he has criticized other people, but apparently he did.
This part's extremely funny because I actually did reach out. So I was in his YouTube live stream and I said, hey, I'm making a video about you. I wanted him to respond and then we can talk about it. Now, I don't have proof that I did that. You'd have to take my word, but I did message him on his YouTube chat. And within like 3 seconds, when I said, I'm making a video about your code, I got banned. And my message disappeared from his stream.
Oh! No way! So he actually did try and make a good faith effort to speak to this guy. I mean, obviously YouTube chat isn't necessarily the best means for which to do it. But I mean, what are you to do then? You get banned immediately for fucking asking the question. What else are you supposed to do then? Because you know what would happen if you messaged him? He'd claim he was being harassed. So, I mean, you're fucked, aren't you? So, PirateSoftware has set a standard in his own head that you've got to reach out to me if you want to be critical. But then he's banned someone that's tried to reach out. So what the fuck is someone supposed to do then? Now, obviously, he doesn't have the proof of the message, but based on how this guy has acted throughout this, I would go ahead and presume that it probably wasn't an unreasonable message, and it was probably just genuinely like, hey, I'm making a video. God, what a fucking loser, man.
So he's not interested in engaging with anybody. He lives in his own fortress. That's why it's so easy for him to say, you should have just reached out to me. Because even if he did see that message, he would have never responded anyways. He would have just brushed it off and ignored it. The fact that he didn't respond to it explicitly is just a cover for him to say, this guy never actually reached out. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, trust me, I'm firmly aware. I don't know if you had seen it. I reached out and my initial goal, and so the exact thing that you just mentioned, that the clip that we just watched was the driving force for sending this, and I actually referred to it because he had said this in a previous drama, I think with the OnlyFangs.
Oh, here we go. Oh, he's going to read it, okay.
Sent him this, and anyone who's watching, they, feel free to pause and read.
Okay, let's have a read of Quintheo's massive fucking message here. Quintheo, brevity is the soul of wit. Okay, never forget that. What does this say, though? I sent this to Kronos as well, but in case he glances over it as a ticket thing, I wanted to reach out directly to you. My name is Connor, or Quintheo on YouTube, and I've got 46,000 subs. I've got 46,000 subs. Okay, bro. I talk about content creator drama. I've talked about you in the past. I've spoken negatively about you in some of those videos, and I just want to make that apparent beforehand, as I don't want this to come over me trying to pull something. Okay, essentially, I was researching a video to talk about the SDG initiative, and admittedly was frustrated with the drama that has come up in regard to your take. My biggest issue is not your thoughts or perspectives, as you make great points in regard to the critiques you have. Oh my god, mate. I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to, softly, softly catch you monkey, as they say. 25th of the 6th. I think this was before I tried to get him to tie the knot, yes. I think this was before that. He's trying to butter her up because he wants to try and... Yeah, I get it. I understand. But more specifically, you've not had a discussion with Ross. I genuinely think the discussion between you two would have been incredibly useful for both sides. I think you have some legitimate criticisms, and working through them with Ross could potentially create helpful changes to the initiative. On the other side, Ross being able to work through and explain himself and his side more in depth would not only give some much needed clarity to points that he hasn't fleshed out, but additionally having this discussion I think would help greatly with the toxicity that has developed from these disagreements. I know you've said in the past that you won't speak to Ross, so I understand this is pretty much a shot in the dark, but I truly think this is a win-win for everyone involved. Why don't you go talk to Ross so I can cut another video about that as well, you fucking loser. Bro, just say it how it is, okay? Just say it how it is, man. Come on. Last thing, I know I said it earlier, but I've made videos about you. More specifically, I've spoken negatively about you, and I don't want to hide that.
Okay, that's wonderful. But how do I make money off depressed people?
Chud, can we like say it ain't sides cuck to say pirate is like Trump and his ferret fans are like MAGA? It's not exclusive to politics.
Thank you for the super
Cult
chat,
hive
BD.
mind.
Thank you for the 365. Pirate probably has spoken to me.
Okay, that's wonderful.
I think he has.
But
I'm not
how
sure,
do I
though.
make money off depressed people?
Just got your GED Celebrate with Trust stream. Yes! Very base. We love to see that. Thank you very much for the super chat. This guy's almost as gay and irritating as Pirate Software. No, come on. Guys, listen, even when we've had disagreements, Quintheo has always been a very, pleasant individual to interact with. He doesn't deserve hate. Come on, man. Is he a bit annoying and soy and gay sometimes? Yes. But who isn't from certain sides of the internet? Anyway, let me just. I just need to read through this, dude. I need to go soon. I'm gonna finish this video before I go. Don't worry. But Jesus Christ, man, a lot of text here. See, Quintheo, all these words, all this blah 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 blah. Okay, there's only 3 words that you need. Tie the knot. That's it. That's all you fucking need. I've spoken negatively about you and don't want to hide that. I want to moderate and keep the discussion unbiased to make sure both of you get through everything you would like to, and there's nothing I can type up that can convince you that I'm truly not doing this to make you look bad. That's a consequence of making those videos, and I accept that doing so jeopardizes this from ever leaving the ground. I know I would benefit from moderating the discussion with the attention it would bring, but sincerely I also want this to happen because I've had a similar issue myself. I've had drama with creators in the past that was completely resolved by sitting down and having a conversation. That's what was running through my head when I was researching and heard you talk about not wanting to speak to Ross. And given that past experience as well, as you being upset previously about nobody reaching out to you to ask for your side in past dramas, I wanted to try this first. Sorry for the short novel. If you have any questions or want to speak with me, I'm more than happy to chat. And then Pirate Software's response is, this should explain why I haven't talked to Ross. And literally just post his own tweet. Oh, what a waste of time. What a waste of time. I mean, Quintheo obviously wants a juicy comment. I mean, fair enough. I get it. I understand. I respect the hustle. But someone like Pirate Software is just not going to be amenable to this, you know?
The kindest thing that I could think of, and it also included, I hadn't watched some of Ross's stuff about the Stop Killing Games, and so I said that he had good arguments that I hadn't seen kind of really refuted. And so it was essentially, hey, I would love to moderate a discussion between you two, because I know that you've pretty much said you never want to speak to the guy. And I was like, I know I have something to benefit. I know I've made negative videos about you in the past, as it's here, or yeah, there's nothing I can type up that can convince you that I'm not doing this to make you look bad. But I genuinely wanted them to have a discussion. And I was like, it's gonna reduce toxicity on your end, all this stuff. So I was like, I understand that this might just screw me over, the fact that I've talked about you like that. He responded, gave a link to one of his very well-known tweets at this point, and then just said that my content is react and hate chasing, says he doesn't respect it, but he gets it. I even followed up and said, hey, like,
oh wait, there's more. Bro. Oh my god, Quintheo, no. Oh, dude. Quintheo, why? He's going to try and explain himself and then, oh my god, dude. This is awkward. This is awkward, man. Fair enough. I know I've jumped too quickly on things. What do you mean, jump too quick, dude? And I remember seeing you call out during previous show we've been in. For what it's worth, that has legitimately stuck with me, so I thank you for that. Have some dignity, man. Have some dignity, dude. Come on, this is not becoming, Quintheo. What are you thanking Pirate Software through? For here, it's ridiculous. Get the knot out of your ass, Quinn. Now. If the book is closed on this because you aren't cool with me moderating or being part of it, I'll keep out of it. Over everything, I think that conversation would do a great deal of good in reducing how polarized people have become on this. And I know that's antithetical to my channel, but that was my goal starting out. Not expecting you to look at my stuff, but even with my interview with Dogpack, I did my best to levy criticism and be even keeled. I've dropped the ball on that recently and I'm making an effort to get back to making that a focal point of my content. Regardless of your decision, I do just really appreciate that you responded back to me. Well, the thing is, like, I do understand what he's trying to do. And, you know, partially he's trying to get the interview, but I do think he's got this very misty-eyed view of all this. I don't think he's been churned through the system enough yet to really be cynical like me. So I do think he probably has got some misty-eyed view of how this can go. So I'm like, okay, I think, yeah, there's probably an element of that too. I don't think this is purely calculated, I want to get a conversation. I do think he's got a fucking retarded view of this, right? I mean, if I ever reach out to someone for a convo, it's normally much shorter than this. I don't tend to get into all this fucking wordy shit, no. I mean, the last person I messaged was, I mean, to be fair, it's they want to come on anyway, so it's a bit different, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Just feels a bit overwrought and unnecessary, and then it doesn't even get you anywhere.
If it's closed, like if you're not going to do this because I'm moderating or being a part of it, I'll stay out of it. I just think you guys having the conversation would be useful. And so he left me on red. I asked him if he'd be okay with me sharing this stuff. He said, you know, in full, not in portions. I truly made the honest effort. And the response that I got was, again, just completely shutting down and ignoring or just not being willing to.
No, it's not. I don't know when it's going to be. I don't know when it's going to be. It's probably going to be at the weekend. The G4H Scrim team.
Have that conversation. And it's crazy that he did it to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, what we see here is repeated patterns of behavior, whether it's in the domain of interpersonal relationships or software engineering. There's no real getting to him, which is why I'm, like I said in my previous video, just going to move forward with my other content.
I think very easily people get into the hate mob mentality where it's either people are just hating and finding any reason to, or people look at it and go, I don't believe it. I think people are just choosing to hate. And I would just rather have videos up that are showing, like, if I can make an argument for him, I'll do my best. Right now, it doesn't seem like there's much of that, but I enjoy the effort of trying and like having the two sides of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, this next part, I'm not sure if you want to include because I'm a little more shaky on it, but I do have something to say.
Talked them through the entire thing of why I did that all in an array, because that is not normal practice to do that, and it's specifically so that you guys can reverse engineer the game and solve the ARG.
Hey,
sometimes
ARG
doing
boy.
bad practice has meaning, which is why I did it in that case, so that you guys could do those ARG components, and I've been saying that for years. The ARG solving community around the game knows this. That's why it's done. So it's not a gotcha, it's just stupid.
ARG stands for alternate reality game, where components of the game itself are like placed outside the game, maybe on a website or some online resources, or sometimes even in real life. So people go out and they look for things that reveal secrets or hints in the game. I'm not sure why he'd sacrifice code quality for an ARG that only a handful of people bother to do. It just seems like a poor excuse for his bad practice. I mean, he admits it's a bad practice, but then he tries to deflect with his ARG explanation as kind of like an immediate out. I actually don't know too much about ARG. I guess that's one of the differences between me and Pirate Software is I admit when I'm not an expert at something. But isn't the whole appeal of hacking an ARG and needing to go and look for something to discover these sorts of hints or clues on your own? Like, why would you in a game dev live stream show everybody where the timeline of events are located and then allow them to more easily find ways to change the game or hints within the game. To me, that just seems strange. Now, I also can't confirm this, but apparently he's banned people who tried to do ARG in his game. Anyways, it's a bit strange to me. Like I said, I'm not the expert at ARG.
Right.
And I'll go ahead and...
I mean, yeah, but I think he's kind of got him there. I think he's right. I think that's a fair view on it. It doesn't really make sense that you'd be showing it on stream, because the point is they've got to find it for themselves somehow. And it does feel very much like an excuse for poor coding rather than an actual meaningful reason for doing it this way. And then also, I mean, I don't know if he's really hammered this point home, but I think it came up earlier where it's like, why would you like want to make your product like? I mean, he kind of did say it there, didn't he? Why would you want to make your product worse for the sake of a handful of people that are doing this? What about the people that are paying to play your game? That then they've got potentially bugs and issues you've got to resolve. How big is this ARG community around this game? I just don't buy this idea that there's this community around it. What is there, fucking 5 people in a Discord somewhere looking over it? I mean, come on, man.
And admit that, but it seems quite suspect to me. I'll just put it that way. It seems like you could still do ARG and do it in a lot cleaner way. Like, you don't need to have magic numbers as your indices for your array in order to use that array for ARG. You know what I mean?
Yes. So I can give you a bit of understanding with that. Have you ever played? It's called Inscription.
Is that the card game?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I love that game. Yeah.
So that is a great example of ARG because it's a bit more than just it being like a reality kind of thing. A lot of, I believe maybe Undertale does it a bit too, where you will have it set up so that if someone does scrape the code or like goes through and tries to, as he said, it kind of, reverse engineer or reverse hack or something like that, you make it so that there are things that you are trying to get them to find within the code. So the interesting thing is, like you said, it feels more like a deflection because number one, there's multiple ways to achieve what he's doing. And he also talks about his experience with the DEF CON badges and working on teams where they do actual hacking and that he has these black badges. So you would assume that even using the coding practices that you are using, he could leave a comment if it was for, an Easter egg. He wouldn't need to have a comment on every single line of code. He could organize his stuff accordingly, but he's hiding behind it feels like the plausible deniability of I am choosing to write this entire thing terribly because I want to dumb it down to make it easier for people to, or maybe not even dumb it down, but do it this way so that it can be easier to implement the ARG aspects of it. I feel like that's an easy out that people are just going to nod their head to because they don't know what the alternative is because they have.
Bro, yes, exactly. I'm telling you, this is what it is. He planted that seed. He knows that he's a fucking total fraud with this game developer shtick. So he's justifying that by saying it's an ARG. So that now later on he's invoking that plausible deniability that he's then planted like a year ago that we watched the clip from, Pirate has made that much? Is it 800k? Really? That seems like a lot.
Haven't developed a game with ARG.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. Like, why would you reorient your whole game around poor coding practices just to make it more ARG friendly?
Especially when most people are never going to touch it. Like Inscription, I watched a YouTube video of someone doing the analysis of it, but most people are not going to go through the effort of reading up the code, finding those points and doing it. They're interested in the story, but not necessarily in the adventure of finding it because it's a lot.
Yeah, I can guarantee you probably like 9 out of 8.
What was your beef with Quintheo? It wasn't really a beef. I think we had a debate about something ages ago. It wasn't a beef, really. It was just like, I don't know, it was over the Mr. Beast stuff. I think it was about that woman that got concussion, wasn't it? If I remember correctly. I don't even know if we put it up as a segment because we'd literally drained every drop out of the Mr. Beast content. It was fucking crazy. But yeah.
8 or 9 out of 10 Inscription players probably don't even know what ARG is. So
where is she now? Dead. She died from a traumatic brain injury. Dude, I don't fucking know, man.
Right. With Pirate's community, maybe you could say that those numbers are a bit different. But even then, if he is selling a game, he should understand that completely. It's like focusing the way that you balance a game for the hardcore players as opposed to the general player base.
You'd think he'd have more robust ways to implement ARG given his background. But instead, you get this slop that permeates the entire code base.
Yeah. That's probably even a better point, is that he chooses to make it sloppy for that element when he could do it based off of his reputation and history that he's developed. He could do it a much more interesting and and clean way. Thank you for like taking the time to even answer these questions with this video. And I just want to clarify that the way that I like dumb things down to make it easier for me to understand for other people, would you say that that's, you know, accurate enough?
Yeah, I think everything we've discussed today, like you've been able to summarize it well.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you, man. Talk to you later.
See ya. Now that wrapped up our
Well
conversation.
done, Quintheo. You're so placed and clever, mate. Congratulations. Oh, it's all banter. It's all banter. It's all banter, guys. It's all banter.
That we had about the clips that had been surfacing today in regard to what Pirate had to say about CJ's videos. Now, I highly recommend that you check out his videos, as they go way more in depth than even what we covered in those clips, and he really does address each point.
Nah, dude, I actually like Quintheo. And it was a fun little combo we had the other day. But listen, you should go and subscribe to him. If you're after more Pirate Software content, as he said himself, he's milking the fuck out of this. So there you go. You can watch a thinner, gayer, beardless version of me talk about it, okay?
Point by point. I think it was most useful for me to try to help summarize so that a lot of people that aren't coders can understand the points that he was making and why Pirate's, you know, refutes or counterpoints don't add up. And now this is just me speaking. I didn't bring this up to Coding Jesus. Pirate was legitimately just lying about Coding Jesus and his experience and who he is. Like his reputation, calling him a grifter. You can't back that up with his YouTube channel. Nearly 600 videos. And this is truly the first time that he has covered drama. If he wants to call someone a grifter, you could make the argument infinitely better talking about me or just about any other, you know, more Pegasus if he's touched this, or sensitive society. Like these are just coming off the dome. But like any of us, it would make so much.
The thing is, grifter has been watered down to the point where it just means someone that makes videos about trending topics. Whereas to me, you know, I generally think it has to be more profound, like the person is saying something they don't believe or lying in some way in order to facilitate making money or gaining viewership or something like that. I don't know. And also, dude, it's like, you know, people... Exactly! You should make videos about trending topics. It's such a cope. I mean, of course, yeah, it's obviously absurd to act like there's anything wrong with there being a big topic and wanting to make content about it. But it's obviously a way of easily dismissing, because you can easily just go, oh, well, they're a grifter. No point paying any attention to them. No point worrying about them. And that's exactly what he's done with Coding Jesus.
Much more sense. And if anything, it's just more telling of this being an ego check more than anything, that he jumps to an ad hominem attack because he can't actually contest.
Also, like, I would, unless Quintheo was saying things in his video that he didn't believe so that it played better and he was able to benefit from the viewership or something, then I think maybe you could say they're a grifter. But as far as I can gather, the things that Quintheo is saying are genuine. He believes them. It just so happens that you can, you know, talk genuinely about this topic and he gets loads of views because Pirate Software is hated at the moment, you know?
With the arguments that CJ's making, because they're sound, and because CJ is willing to admit when he's wrong or out of his depth and willing to even have the conversation. And as you heard from him, even if Pirate complains about the fact that people don't reach out, when people do, he rejects it. Whether it be Coding Jesus, me, or just about, I'm sure, anybody else that has made the attempt outside of Charlie and Joshua Strifehaze. And even then, they didn't get much of a response themselves. That's it for the video today. I hope you guys learned something new. I'm interested.
Yeah, dude, I messaged Pirate Software and told him I was coming to pay him a visit, and he fucking blocked me. No, it's a joke. That's a joke. I've not done that, just to be clear. That's a little joke. Relax. Calm down.
Hear your thoughts. Lastly, if you're still here by the end of the video, consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. You know, you've seemingly enjoyed the video. Leave it a like if you want this to get out to more people. But most importantly, just thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And again, please be sure to check out Coding Jesus. He has some really useful insight about all of this. That's all I had for you today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you later. Peace.
Bro, this video's got fucking 474,000 views. I need to start being nicer to this guy. Jesus. Hey, Quintheo is so based, isn't he? Yeah, but great guy. Really love him. Love him, actually. Nothing bad to say about the guy. Anyway, here's his channel.